I was going to ask you about the director's cut as well, because as a filmmaker, I think like you've made that such a thing. What is it that you think is so worthwhile about kind of presenting two versions of a film?
Well, I think in this case, the real sort of why of the director's cut is that in a genre like this, making a giant space movie is, the economics say you can't really have an R-rated version because, we need the biggest audience to see the movie. And this allows me to sit down and write a crazy movie that has no business existing. And Netflix, in their wisdom, was like, well, I have a way to make that movie exist, the crazy version. And the way you do that is you give me something I can sell that is consistent with your vision.
Good day, legends. Imagine this. Hollywood executives are pacing the boardroom like kangaroos in a stampede because one director might just turn the entire DC landscape upside down. That director, Zack Snyder. And before we dive into the swirling rumors, the secret power plays, and the industry chatter suggesting Snyder could be back in charge, do yourselves a favor. Subscribe to Stats In and hit that notifications bell so you never miss the biggest Hollywood moves, secret strategies, and jaw-dropping stories we break down every week. Trust me, you will want to see this unfold. Now, let us get straight into it. Rumors have been swirling about Warner Brothers, with whispers of a potential studio sale and shifting leadership. And just when the industry is caught off guard, Snyder's name starts popping up again. Not because he announced anything official, but because his influence, his fanbase, and his cinematic vision are too powerful to ignore. Hollywood insiders are reportedly watching closely, and the internet? Well, it is in full-on frenzy mode. Here is the twist. Snyder has been dropping images, cryptic posts, and subtle hints on social media. No captions, no official statements, just visuals that scream style, vision, and long-term planning. Fans immediately jumped on these clues, dissecting shadows, lighting, and framing like detectives at a crime scene. And the timing is impeccable. Every post seems to coincide with another rumor about Warner Brothers' potential shakeups. The speculation is unstoppable. Why does this matter? Because Snyder is not just any director. He built the Snyderverse, a universe with its own tone, visual language, and loyal fanbase. And in Hollywood, fan loyalty is worth more than any press release or marketing budget. Executives notice numbers, trending hashtags, social engagement, streaming boosts. And when these numbers point to Snyder, it creates leverage. Suddenly, Snyder is not just a filmmaker. He is a potential power broker, a brand in himself. Now, imagine the studio situation like a house of cards. Executives are juggling reboots, new directors, streaming partnerships, and fan expectations. One wrong move and the whole structure wobbles. Snyder's resurgence, through carefully timed posts and organic fan support, acts like a gust of wind, and the cards are shaking. Fans are watching closely, tweeting theories, posting analyses, and building a narrative that Snyder is the one with the ultimate plan. Here is the really fascinating part. Snyder has not made any official moves to reclaim authority. He does not need to. The fandom, the internet, and even industry chatter are doing the work for him. Likes, shares, trending discussions. These amplify his presence without him lifting a finger. This is classic Snyder strategy. Let the momentum build quietly and let the power of perception do the talking. Meanwhile, Warner Brothers is reportedly evaluating how to adapt. Rumors about streaming rights, franchise restructuring, and potential leadership changes are circulating. Snyder's name continues to pop up in discussions because his universe is not just a film series, it is a cultural phenomenon. Any studio seeking stability, fan loyalty, or proven cinematic vision would be remiss to ignore the man who transformed the tone of superhero storytelling. And it gets better. Beyond the studio rumors, Snyder's older films are experiencing renewed interest, with streaming numbers rising and fans revisiting the Snyderverse with fervor. Sucker Punch, Man of Steel, and Justice League, Snyder Cut have all seen renewed attention. This resurgence not only strengthens his cultural relevance but also reinforces the idea that Snyder could step back into a leadership or creative role if given the opportunity. Analyzing the situation, Snyder's influence is multi-layered. He combines visual mastery, fan loyalty, and strategic silence to maintain relevance. While the industry debates, he quietly reminds everyone of the impact and longevity of his work. That is why whispers of him being back in charge are not entirely wild speculation. There is precedent, timing, and momentum on his side. Now, some fans speculate that a Snyder return could stabilize DC's creative direction. Others believe it would allow the Snyderverse to expand into untapped narratives, previously abandoned storylines, and deeper character development. And executives, watching the engagement numbers, know that fan interest translates into revenue, box office, streaming subscriptions, merchandise. Snyder's name alone carries weight that few can match. The genius of Snyder's current position is subtlety. He is not forcing headlines. He is not negotiating publicly. He is merely active enough to maintain relevance while allowing fan-driven momentum to shape the narrative. By the time any official announcements occur, Snyder has already built the perception of inevitability. And in Hollywood, perception often becomes REA. Good day, legends. Picture this: a film that was once dismissed, overlooked, and sometimes even ridiculed suddenly rockets back into popularity, and everyone is asking, how did this happen? That, mates, is the story of Zack Snyder's Sucker Punch right now. But before we unpack this cinematic comeback, do yourselves a favor. Subscribe to Stats In and hit that notifications bell so you never miss the insider Hollywood scoops, shocking industry moves, and film mysteries we break down every week. You will absolutely want to be here for this one. Now, let us dive in. Sucker Punch, Snyder's bold, stylistically audacious film from 2011, has unexpectedly surged in streaming popularity. A movie once considered polarizing, visually overwhelming, and narratively complex is now commanding attention like it has been waiting all this time for its moment. And honestly, watching it gain traction now feels like seeing a rare animal reappear after decades in hiding. Fascinating, striking, and a little bit surreal. Why is it happening? There are multiple layers, and they are all delicious. First, Snyder's unique visual language is timeless. The film's hyper-stylized action sequences, dreamlike transitions, and larger-than-life set-pieces were ahead of their time in 2011. Audiences now, saturated with cinematic universes and streaming content, are finally able to appreciate the artistry and ambition without the distraction of comparing it to mainstream blockbusters. It is like discovering a vintage wine that is finally ready to be savored. Then comes the factor of streaming itself. Platforms today are designed to resurrect hidden gems. Algorithms notice renewed interest, promote it, and suddenly, a film that went unnoticed in theaters becomes a trending sensation overnight. In other words, streaming has become the perfect ecosystem for Snyder's work to thrive. Fans stumble upon it, discuss it, recommend it, and the momentum compounds, a perfect storm that is hard to resist. But let us not forget the fan factor. Snyder has one of the most loyal, passionate, and deeply engaged fan bases in modern cinema. They live and breathe every frame, dissect every image, and defend every creative decision. When they began rediscovering Sucker Punch, they didn't just watch it, they shared it, analyzed it, created discussions, and made it feel culturally relevant again. That grassroots momentum often matters more than box office numbers or critical reviews. And in this case, it worked in Snyder's favor beautifully. Now, here is another interesting angle: timing. Contemporary audiences are drawn to films with complex female leads and visually ambitious narratives. Sucker Punch features a strong, action-driven ensemble navigating an intricate narrative, which resonates more today than it might have a decade ago. Social and cultural shifts have made the film more relevant, and streaming provides the ideal environment for this resurgence. It is like the universe has finally caught up with Snyder.